All right, EA Ermor turned 67. The dread level is high. We have 2 armies in motion. Okay, this must be the the death basket from Abyssia. Maybe should have emptied out. You can actually run out of inventory space. I'm not sure what happens in that case. I think you just don't get some of the items, or I think items that you forge don't get forged. I'm not actually sure if you get refunded on the gems. Anyway, it's a very much a corner case, and I think we have enough space. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. A pretty big death basket. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is incredibly appreciated on my end. But it is always a little sad, like, to see all these unused gems. I'm a big believer in, spending everything, like, against whoever kills you. Yeah, like 303 fire gems. Surely, like, Abyssia, because, like, the air gems and water gems, and to a lesser extent the earth gems, I think Abyssia gets a little bit of earth, but especially the air and water are going to be very difficult for Abyssia to use. Probably the thing to do is to trade with other players, which I can't really talk. I don't do a lot of gem trading. I should probably do more gem trading as well. But yeah, I mean, especially like 303 fire gems, it could just be an issue where like Abyssia just ran out of mages before they ran out of gems. I haven't run into that situation myself, but I haven't ever like taken scales as rough as Abyssia, so it's fairly late in the game. We saw that their capital was way down. Obviously, they're getting hammered by burden of time, so it may just been a case where like Abyssia just wasn't able to use these gems. But we definitely use 303 fire gems as bad news for Russ. And then speaking of gems and wasting them, we're casting Call of the Winds, so we're sending some birds at a lightly defended palisade here. This spell often does not work, and it looks like the PD got improved, because this kind of looks like 6. Maybe it's just 5, because, the message that it had. Okay, so we managed to snipe the commander, but we're still not out of the woods yet. So they're routed, but there's a good chance that they rout our birds, right? Yeah, this is often what happens. Now, I think the darkness, yeah, so we rout. It looks like our commander, though, comes through for us. Assuming that nothing goes wrong, so our bird's routed, but the commander holds, and so we do at least lock this down. But it was definitely pretty touch and go, and so it could have not worked out. And then it looks like Russ actually gets some seducers, so we have an assassination battle here. Let's see. Oh boy, this doesn't look good. Who is this fellow? So this looks like it's in a cave, so it must be our primary army, and like, yeah, this is just some water bottle stuff, and also an Amulet of the Dead, which is going to summon in some skeletons, I think. Very cool. There's a good chance we die to this. We do have some bodyguards, but only the one, and he's throwing his javelin. I have to say, the javelin infantry, anybody with a javelin, kind of make crap bodyguards, because they have a tendency to just throw their javelins when it's like you really kind of want them. You need them to get into combat, right? And like give your mage some time to do something. So, these bodyguards aren't really here for assassination attempts. It's also like really lucky that he managed to get one of my wife. I don't know, really lucky, but a lucky roll. We also lose an augur, right? So he was seduced. We didn't actually find any commanders to assassinate. I'm not sure if that's because I got the turn order wrong, or if he's just not recruiting thunder priests in that province. And then it looks like a lot of cloud trapezes, right? So we get absolutely hammered in the raiding game, and I think the majority of these we're going to lose, more or less uncontested. In some ways, I mean, maybe this is me just trying to rationalize losing. Oh, hold on here. All right, folks, we're going to get our battle. I thought, there's a possibility, right, that this happens, because, we're moving this army out, right, to join with our devils here and, to send it against the capital. And, like, his army was nearby on top of the throne, and, I thought, like, well, it's, maybe he decides to come out. Now, he saw what was in my capital, right? So he at least has, like, a scouting report's worth of information about it. So, he chose to come at this anyway. And, we talked through our army. So, yeah, we'll see. Okay, so he threw up, looks like Arrow Fend, right, which is definitely going to help against, like, our flaming arrows from the slings. Also, we have Mist going up, right, which is also going to help for ranged fire. And he has basically no ranged components in his army. So that's all really good stuff for him. And, unfortunate for us, but not the end of the world, because that's not the main component of our army. Grip of Winter is coming up, so we definitely were expecting that. And we have Frost Fend up immediately. Now, we do actually take some frost damage here, it looks like, on one of our guys. or at least he has the icon for it. Like, yeah, some of these guys. So I'm not super familiar with this, but, you know, I think 5 will be enough that we can mostly ignore this. Of course, you know, I don't think our fire elementals are going to love this, so that's good for him. Okay, so he also gets up Fog Warriors, it looks like. We have thrown up Wailing Winds, right? The morale play that's going to try to, you know, make his units rout. We need that to activate before his guys go berserk. Once they go berserk, you know, that's going to be a lot less effective. I mean, they won't care. They won't rout. We have, you know, our Howl and his Howl. We were expecting the Howl, so the Howls should cancel. The Fog Warriors is definitely going to be a bit of a problem, right? A lot of our stuff, like our Gladiators, do not have magic weapons. Our Sacreds do, and of course, you know, the fire elementals are going to be doing magic damage, and then, you know, we do have the option, we have a lot of mages here, and, you know, we may do some evocations off script. Unfortunately, the Blood Vengeance, right, is going to usually kill our evocation casters. So this is a big problem, right? We were really hoping on the Gladiators doing a lot of work for us. It looks like he's also spamming out Battle Fortune, which is kind of the lesser Will of the Fates, right? So it gives luck on a relatively wide AoE, although you can see like this particular Sacred didn't get any luck. To this guy, that's good. We don't want any luck on these guys. You know what? The Vine Ogres probably sucked it all up. No, interesting. It looks like the Vine Ogres didn't really get it. So I'm not sure where that Battle Fortune went. I wonder if maybe that was on our side, like somebody off script or something went wrong. You know, things go wrong. Unfortunately, our Devils, right, were unscripted, unled. So, you know, they just jumped in immediately and pretty much died and did nothing because they're just so outnumbered. So now I think most of the battlefield-wide buffs have gone off. Did we just do Mass Protection? No, I think that was Serpent's Blessing. Okay, so we got Serpent's Blessing. Doesn't really look like that's going to be relevant, so we'll see. Like, we are advancing. Unfortunately, you know, just the nature of it, our cavalry is getting out in front, which is not good. We're going to take a lot of casualties here, definitely. We do have fire resistance, so that's going to help a lot. There's a Syllable of Sleep, so that's something I'm hoping will, you know, cancel out. Yeah, it looks like they have good enough magic resistance. This guy managed to get some luck, so yeah, I think the Battle Fortune was on his side, but we're hoping to cancel out some of the berserking by, you know, setting those guys to sleep. We do see one of his units has gone into bear form, so that's good. You know, we hope to see a lot more of that, definitely. You know, our trolls are moving up. Our trolls have a lot of... Something just went down. Okay, before we go any further, let me turn on team colored squares. I can assure you, I don't really know what's going on here either. So I think it was Mist that went down. We also put up Light of the Northern Star, right, which is going to help. We have some Enslave Mind attempts. Like, we have a lot of astral shenanigans. So increasing the astral level of all of our casters is going to help a lot. He cast Growing Fury, which is going to help a lot against Wailing Winds. That's going to, you know, make all of his units go berserk eventually. Now, of course, you know, his main units are already berserkers. Yeah, unfortunately, like the wolves are still, a lot of our fire elementals, right, are getting tied up with those guys. But we can see like our trolls and our cavalry are doing okay. There are a lot of bears showing up. The fact that Mist went down is really nice. We also definitely have some routes on Russ's side. Not too many. I think some of those are wolves. And like, yeah, you know, I mean, our slings I don't think are doing like a ton of damage, and, you know, you can probably see some Blood Vengeance coming back. I wonder what we managed to get our magic resistance up to. So we got it up to 16, right? So our anti-magic went off. That's, you know, at least on our Equite of the Sacred Shroud. Here come some of our Gladiators who have less magic resistance, definitely, but, you know, they are lucky, and they do deal a lot of damage, definitely. And then, of course, you know, I mean, the slings and stuff, they aren't going to do a ton, but Flaming Arrows, like, he doesn't have much, if any, fire resistance. Yeah, so it looks like he managed to get fire resistance on at least some of his guys, but 5 is like not that much. Now, slings do so little damage anyway. We do actually have the Gladiators set to attack rear because I was worried about like the wolf nonsense, and I think that's helping us out, but it's a little unfortunate that these Gladiators aren't here, you know, in the main area. And you can see, like, we don't really have too many Equite of the Sacred Shroud left. I knew this war was going to be bloody. I knew this battle was going to be bloody, but... you know, it's like a lot of our army is like replaceable, right? We can slam out Gladiators way faster. Not our Sacreds, right? The Equite of the Sacred Shroud definitely hurt, and like I still haven't really figured out, if I can pause here and ruminate on Sacred Cavalry. it's always, when you're trying to combine it with your infantry, right? Like, especially later in the game, usually you want everybody to hold an attack, right? So it gives you those 2 critical rounds to put up your really important, like, battlefield-wide buffs that you really want to get on your entire army before they engage, right? Because if they go and engage and they don't have the buffs, it's wasted, right? But the cavalry is usually, like, double the speed of the infantry. So if you have everybody hold, then the cavalry ends up fighting first, which is usually the most valuable component of your army, and probably what you'd prefer to show up a little later, right? And let the crappier portions of your army bear the brunt of the damage. But if you just send in the infantry immediately, oftentimes they get completely wiped out really before your buffs are online. So yeah, I definitely still haven't figured that out. You can see we made a crap ton of fire elementals. Our fire elementals, I think he lost his howl. This is working out for us, definitely, but it's pretty bloody. I'm not really sure that we're going to have the siege strength to crack his forts. And of course, too, right, with Wailing Winds, a lot of his casters have escaped. Probably most of his casters are going to escape, right? But the nature of Berserkers, right, is that they're not going to run away. And, we're not out of the woods yet here, actually. Because, like, we are producing, like, basically infinite undead, right? Until we run out of the Vine Ogres, who are definitely taking damage, right? So this won't last forever, although it will probably last, well, we're only on battle round 20, right? So I think the attacker route's on, like, 90. So actually, we could eat those Vine Ogres, potentially, and run out of our undead production. But it's going to be some time yet. Now, fire elementals and undead, right? You can see these guys getting set on fire. Not actually a great combo, but I do think that, like, these bears, like, you can see most of them are in bear form. I think we're going to come away with this, but definitely, like, has been extremely painful. And, we're going to lose, like, all the gladiators. Like, yeah, pretty much most of the troop portions of our army are going to be done, and most of his casters are going to survive. But like I was saying, the Berserkers, they're very, like, brittle. It's so scary when you're using Berserkers, in my mind. I've played a little bit with, like, Vanheim, who kind of similar. Yeah, some of these guys are actually routing, which is a little unfortunate. We would like to kill them, especially, like, this guy is so close. Well, I guess he's going to turn into a bear. So hopefully we can chase some of these guys down. But anyway, because they berserk, oftentimes when you lose a battle, you lose all the Berserkers. And in this case, I think because they're falling asleep due to the heat aura, maybe, or just because they're having to fight a ton, when they fall asleep, the Berserk shuts off, right? You lose your Berserk status when you fall asleep, which is actually kind of working out for him here. Because, then they're going to escape. But we are also throwing out, like, some Soul Slays, some Enslaved Minds. Let's see, is our Communion still alive? Some of it is. It's about to die. In fact, it is dying. So, yeah, we really need this battle to finish here. We do have some heals and stuff going off. I knew that the Communion could very well, overload. We have a big Communion. Yeah, I think we're going to lose most, if not all, of the Communion slaves, which is rough. We're talking, like, maybe about 20 augurs. So I think mage-wise, actually, this is going to be a much more painful battle for us. Although, depending on how many cap-only mages we get, yeah, I think we completely wipe the Communion. Ouch. It was close. It almost held out long enough. Unfortunately, there's just, like, a few of these, bears that, like, we just can't. A few of them we enslaved mine. But you can see, like, we were throwing out not a ton of enslaved mines, but a decent number of enslaved mines, and we got two bears, 2 of his sacreds, right? So, the magic resistance on the Bless, I think, is doing him a lot of favors. And yeah, let's see how bloody that was. Well, we find a bunch of gear, a lot of which, maybe all of which, is our own. So, it's a bit of a wash there. He loses 8 out of 18 of Rusian wizards, which is significant, but certainly not, these he can pop out of any fort. He loses 1 of his cap-onlys, and 3 of them survive, so that's pretty good. Like, yeah, his mage losses are actually, like, pretty low. His sacred losses are, I don't want to say catastrophic, but pretty gosh darn significant. You see 426 kills, right? Like, I mean, this is pretty much the army. These casters and stuff, yeah, they made some air elementals and, like, whatever. Like, these are dangerous guys. These are dangerous casters, absolutely. But, like, this is the army right here. And he's got, less than 10 of those sacreds left out of 65. So that's a huge win for us. He loses all the corpse constructs, kind of inconsequential. The Jade Maidens, they actually get 13 kills, do better than I would have expected. The Bless is pretty strong. And then he loses the Vine Ogres, also not that big a deal. Now on our side, you can see right away, we lose 21 Augurs. That's pretty huge. That is a ton of Augurs. We definitely burned out the Communion. I think we also probably lost most of the Masters. I saw a few possible Soul Slays, and Blood Vengeance I think will work on if you Soul Slay. So that's basically a guaranteed kill unless you get the resist. Right, so a lot of our mages either, we blew up the Communion, and they blew themselves up probably killing his sacreds. So 21 Augurs, that's a ton of gold to be losing, and a ton of fort turns. That really hurts. We lose a Lar, that's very sad, right? That's 16 nature gems. We lose 2 lizard shamans, that's fine. We lose our devils, that was kind of always going to happen. We lose all of our sacreds. We lose a little over half of the total of what's involved here, right? We lose the majority of the gladiators, pretty much all the fire snakes. The Slayer's actually doing better than expected. They were probably killing our own skeletons. I can't imagine they were killing that many skin shifters. But yeah, we have some of them left. Some of our other gladiators survive. It's just sort of a mix of our infantry survives. We don't actually eat any of our Vine Ogres, which is a little bit interesting. This army is not really viable. If Russ hadn't taken so much damage, we'll probably still try to push forward with this. We do have more Augurs. I went back and forth. I almost updated the turn that I submitted to send more Augurs into this battle because I knew that the Communion was going to run hot. But on the other hand, I figured, well, if we do burn out the Communion, I just wasn't sure I was going to be able to get the Communion to a place where it wouldn't burn out in a really long battle. So it's kind of well, if I add more Augurs to it, that's just more Augurs I'm going to burn out. Better to leave them at home and then bring them up as replacements. So yeah, I'm not really sure. We burned out the Communion, so it was either a good decision or a bad decision. We were fairly close, so maybe another 8 Augurs would have done the trick. But anyway, a very bloody battle, one that we do win, but with the losses, the mage losses are very lopsided, right? Now, we don't lose a lot of our major mages, right? Our white mage survives. Although one of them got taken out. I'm pretty sure one of them got taken out, and definitely one of them got taken out in the Seduction Battle. Not yet 100% sure if he was attached to this army. So anyway, yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that again. We do have some retreats, so yeah, an Augur retreated successfully. That's good. 42 units dispersed, 28 of them made it back to friendly territory. He's obviously going to take a lot of losses in the retreats as well. It looks like potentially he was trying to cut our retreat routes. I'm not really sure. Let's take a look. That was not a magic phase battle, so these are actually not cloud trapezes. I think these are just regular attacks, it looks like. Okay, so this is just a stack. This is being split off from his main army in the south, I think. And this is this is going to be really hard to stop with PD or whatever. These bears are not good, right? Because their protection is not great. They have miserable magic resistance. They're animals. They're undisciplined. They have poor attack density, blah, 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 blah. But they also have 57 hit points you got to cut through with Blood Vengeance. Not damage reversal, sorry. There is actually a damage reversal. Blood Vengeance. It's similar but different, like many things in Dominions. Anyway, this is going to be super painful. And they have a fire shield and don't they have other stuff too? Some Undying, some skills. That's not going to matter too much. But anyway, this is going to raid really effectively, and he's got some of his sacreds on guard commander. So this is really cool. And there's no way some Deer Tribe is going to stop it. So he's splitting out and doing some raiding, and that is really good. I'm probably not doing enough of that, but you can see from that battle why I'm a little hesitant to split stuff out, because it's I think we're gonna need everything. And this is another one of his thugs who maybe we've seen. I feel like he raided us last turn and is now just marching forward, right, and basically being I'm just gonna take all your territory unless you do something about it. And probably the thing we're going to do about it is fire elementals. Yeah, he's only got 5 fire resistance. We can deal with that. He might be able to get it up to 10. And he's got regeneration, and he's got the blood vengeance and everything. He's sacred. So this guy's going to be a pain to deal with. And if we had more augurs, this would be easier. But we did just lose 21 of them, so that's a little concerning. And then let's take a look Yeah, Augur's summoning fire elementals. You know, hey, we did just get a shit ton of fire gems. Yeah, we've definitely seen this guy before. Let's see if he ran into our trap. No, he did not. That is sad. Okay, but here's our lizard shaman who is retreating. So he's going to take that province. Absolutely. Like, yeah. Did we retreat successfully? We did. Hopefully that's a useful province that he retreated to. Let's just check this. Yep. Okay. And another raid, right? And like this is really bad because I'm losing a lot of gem income and a lot of gold income this way, right? So it's really going to help. And like, yeah, this is the other Amazon province, which we could conceivably win. Maybe should have actually PD dumped. We also just have some retreaters here. Long dead horsemen, of course, are very dangerous. Ooh, and our centurion got poisoned, so we're probably screwed. Yeah, there goes our only leadership. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Did he survive? It looks like maybe he survived. So, yeah, this could work out. No, yeah, long dead horsemen are pretty good, so it doesn't take too many, and I think this is a Mountain King. Yeah, so this is one we could have conceivably won. Definitely a weaker rating force based around Swarm, but it works out for him, so that's also nicely done. And, of course, he augmented, his Swarm raids, so that's very cool. Yeah, and another one of these guys. Yes, he's hitting us hard in the rating game. And that is something, like, I feel like, early age Ermor is not so hot in the rating game. I do think Mind Hunt is something that like you really need to kind of lean on and rely on, but that has not really been working out for us super well. I don't have a very big like Mind Hunt battery, so I think maybe I have been too foolish in some of my Astral Pearl spending, and like these barbarians are not going to do great, but yeah, and then of course like Ermor normally uses like some undead thugs, which I'm not a huge fan of. I like to use the death gems on other things, but maybe we're seeing like the weakness of that right now. Definitely we're gonna have to figure out something. Although just putting pressure on his capital. Oops, wait, we just saw this. And then there was speaking of us not getting beaten up by Russ, a nice change of pace. There's battle in Machaca. I'm imagining uncontested. Okay, so this is what Xibalba is rocking, and it's looking pretty gosh darn scary, right? So he's got a bunch of whites who are pretty nasty undead. He's got a bunch of terracotta soldiers, probably just to fill out the ranks. He's also using long dead horsemen. Looks like probably there's been like some strategic attack spells because some of these guys are rocking damage. Xibalba also gets like these sacred scorpions, who are cool. I mean, they're going to carry his bless, which is nice, and they're kind of dangerous otherwise. They are undisciplined, so that's a little sad. And he's got a bunch of beast bats. And then he's got the Aussies. These Ozolotls are super dangerous. They're blood summons. They're sacred. They have a bunch of attacks, quite a few hit points. They are a bit glass cannony though, right? Like no real protection to speak of. Their defense skill like isn't good enough that it's really going to prevent a lot of hits. It's not awful, but yeah. And then size 3, like I mean, they have solid attack density, but they definitely will get harassed down pretty quickly because you can't fit that many of them in a square. And this looks like probably just a crap ton of PD. Bit sad that like this doesn't really look like it's being supported by mages. There is a mage here, but I feel like maybe it's a PD commander. So just simply by numbers here, like for instance these long dead horsemen, they're not going to love the spears, right, or the arrows, although yeah, they have pierce resistance, so arrows are not great against undead. Yeah, here come all the flyers. Not really any buffs to speak of, it seems like, from an army-wide standpoint. Possibly I missed something. Yeah, it's regeneration on the bless. That's very strong. It's not going to be so great on his sacred bats, but like 33 hit points, like that's that's reasonable. It's not amazing, but it's going to make these Ozolotls a lot more survivable. And like, yeah, it's just got the numbers here. So I think Xibalba's going to come away with this without too many casualties, although I imagine not none. Yeah, so that was like a metric crap ton of PD. I don't know what value that is, but a lot. I want to say like maybe 80 PD possibly, which is, yeah, even higher than anything I've ever reached, which is impressive because I dump PD. But Xibalba, doesn't really lose too much. I would say that's probably not worth it for Machaca, but again, sometimes it's just a question of like he has a bunch of gold, but he has no forts like that aren't being sieged, so he can't really spend it. It does seem like this amount of troops like supported with like even just a few mages feels like he could have made this battle a lot more painful for Xibalba. But Machaca is in a rough place right now. They're getting 2v1'd by two fairly powerful nations, and at least one of those players is really good. So, you know, I mean, they're in a tough place. Let's worry about our own play. Yeah. So this is uncontested, right? This is our army in the south, our only army now, really. But, you know, conversely, Russ has lost his army, you know, near his capital. So we take that without too much trouble. Hey, no losses. Nice to not bleed anything, although that was a very easy PD type. And then we are making an attack here, right? These are just our barbarians moving forward, and like, yeah, we're probably just going to lose this. Are these some of his sacreds in here? Oh, you know what? These might be retreaters, or maybe he moved them out. I don't think he gets any priests in the PD, but barbarians do not love horse tread. And then, like, yeah, even unblessed, like, there's just no way. So we got those barbarians for free. Like, we didn't really have, that was like our only raiding option. I guess we could have brought them back to participate in that giant battle where they would have just immediately died and, like, done nothing. So, you know, I don't even hate that. There's a battle in Ulm. This is interesting. Okay. So looks like Femoria is still attacking Ulm. What do we have here? Just a ping, it looks like, with a mage. That's interesting. And it looks like, yeah, Ulm was patrolling. They are ready. So they have like a lot of their troops. Looks like they also have a white mage or two. They brought out like, yeah, a ton of casters with gems. So like, yeah, it looks like Femoria must be, you know, pushing on Ulm's capital because, you know, they were patrolling with a lot of stuff. Little, I mean, pinging with a mage always, I think, feels a little sad. So yeah, we're getting attacked here. Oh, nice. I think this is a mercenary group. Oh, nice. This is his pretender, too, who has been twice born, is not holding up any global enchantments. I don't actually know if Russ has any global enchantments. And, like, yeah, has enough astral that, like, magic dueling him is going to be a bit of a hassle. Definitely can do Earthquake and is loaded up with a ton of gems. I wonder if this is our, yep, this is our squad of legionaries. So there's a pretty good chance, yep, there's the Earthquake. So this actually triggered gem usage. And it looks like, did he kill? No, I thought maybe he killed like some of his own casters. Oh, that's interesting. This is, wow, okay. So he can Earthquake without his pretender. So he's taking an Earth 1, who I was like not really too worried about, giving him 2 boosters, right? So that brings him up to Earth 3, and then you can summon Earth Power, which brings you up to Earth 4. I think Earthquake is Earth 5, so he probably took some damage from casting Earthquake. No, it looks like he was able to cast it without taking any fatigue damage, although, like, you know, they do take a little bit of damage from their own Earthquake, and then you can see that, like, they're hitting these sylphs, but for 0 points of damage, so probably that is a situation where, like, defense is negating. I imagine these sylphs probably have decent defense. Yeah, okay. Oh, you know what, though? They're flyers, so they're not actually affected in a lot of cases by Earthquake, although there is a secondary component to Earthquake in a cave. So, like, yeah, he just Earthquaked the ever-loving crap out of this province. And, like, yeah, we dodged a bullet here, right? So, like, we were worried about Earthquake in this cave. And, you know, that's one of the reasons we got the heck out of Dodge. We're not going to take that fort, which leaves our army in a bit of an awkward position, right? Because it doesn't really have any retreat routes. It's kind of, like, off on its own. But, you know, it has gem reloads. It's pretty strong. And, like I said, unless he trails with his other army, I don't think he really has anything that can stop it. So it's going to take it a minute, but it's going to get in position to definitely deal some damage. We do lose the province. He does lose the Windmaster, right? And that was a mercenary group. So, you know, he's not going to have those sylphs anymore, which is nice. And he does lose the Thunder Priest, which is somewhat significant because he had a fair amount of gear, some of which he maybe managed to pick up. Although I have a feeling that the Archmage is probably full up on slots. Yeah, he has full kit, so no way that he can pick up that gear. And we don't really care about the Windmaster's gear, but, like, yeah, that's a good amount of Earth Gems to be losing. Some Blood Slaves, which I don't think he can easily replace. He gave him a Luck Amulet, which is cool, but, you know, it didn't work out for him in the end. Definitely a good idea, though. So, yeah, and then, oh, there's a battle. Oh, poor Saromesha. Let's see if they manage to do anything against the Niflheim Juggernaut, you know, who's, yeah, mostly just using thugs, right? I like this style of assault. Yeah, here we go with the Skelly Spam, right? So, and calling in, like, some ghosts, which is, you know, kind of like Skelly Spam. So let's see, and Howl, right, coming out from Saromesha as well. So we just have, like, maximum chaff generation against, you know, a couple elites. And then let's see, Cleansing Water, that's an anti-undead spell. That's very cool. And man, those Scrotty are quick. Like they're already in like through the gate. Maybe like too far back for the skeleton spammers. I mean, it does keep them safer, but like maybe have like a couple skeleton spammers a little farther forward. Kind of doesn't matter though, because I mean, you know, they're just gonna have the numbers. Now, I mean, that said, like, I don't think there's any... these guys regenerate, and they're going to have enough kit, and, like, yeah, they're going to have 20% regeneration because they have their natural regeneration, and there's regeneration on the Bless. So, very unlikely that any of these guys die to skeletons. On the other hand, I'm not sure they're going to be able to cut their way quickly enough, right? Now, some of the Eagles went into the back. That is very cool. Kind of. You can see Eagles aren't great, and, like, there's some high-level death casters here, so we see some Drain Life and stuff like that. But it does at least, you know, keep some of the skeletons pinned back. And like, yeah, these Scrotty just aren't quite killy enough, right? And so if the battle times out, then, you know, Sarmatia just comes away with the wins. So this may not be that painful for Niflheim. We'll see. Some of these Scrotty might not be able to get out. And fatigue is definitely a problem. When you're going up against Skelly spam, being fatigue neutral is super important. Very difficult to do. This guy has had quickness. Probably cast on himself because he has some water, and it's just very difficult to be, I think, fatigue neutral with quickness because you know you're taking more actions every round. So, like for instance, this guy, interesting, also has quickness, but you know his fatigue is doing fine. Let's see, his encumbrance is very low. Yeah, so he is at least without quickness, he's actually fatigue positive, whereas this guy. Oh, you know what? I bet he took no, he just lost an eye. Not sure why this guy's encumbrance is so much higher. Oh, he's a fatty. Unequaled obesity. Yeah, this tag is, you know, it's one of the heroic traits you can kind of see, right? Like, it's not that helpful in a lot of ways. So, like, yeah, this Scrotty probably still not going to die, but definitely in more danger when you fatigue out. You know, you're more likely to take critical hits and stuff like that. We have a little bit of caster support, but the wolves are doing good work. You know, keeping some of these like cleansing waters away. You know, keeping the casters busy doing other things. Because, like I said, the Scrotty alone are definitely not enough to cut through. Maybe if all the casters were on Advance and Cast. Yeah, it looks like at least some of them are on Advance and Cast. The Jarls, which makes sense. Those are replaceable, right? The Queen of Air, much less replaceable, so she's hanging back. So, like, yeah, this is starting to look a lot better, but, you know, Sarmatia can absolutely pump out quite a few skeletons. Now, there is always a risk that, you know, some of Sarmatia's mages retreat, and in which case, you know, they would probably lose, right? We still have a ways to go, and, you know, Niflheim is definitely doing a lot of damage, although there's still, you know, quite a bit of HP left on the field here. And, like, yeah, these Scrotty... Ooh, did we lose a Scrotty? Hold on. So I was very confused here for a little bit because there are two werewolves here that I can find, right? Where's the other werewolf? And I'm like, am I going crazy? I could have sworn that there were 3 Scrotty here. Did I just like make up a Scrotty? And then I noticed that Niflheim has a frog who is dead. So yeah, this is where our other werewolf went. And I think this is like Curse of the Frog Prince or something. It's a nature spell. And like, yeah, you can turn your enemy into a frog. It's magic resistance like negates. So it can be kind of difficult to pull off, but like with enough casts, like you can turn a Scrotty into a frog. In which case, like, yeah, much easier to kill a Scrotty in that form. And one of the Jarls has retreated, so I think Sarmatia is going to come away with this. They're still not out of the woods yet. And they have also, like, a ton of their casters died. Let's actually take a quick look, because I'm actually shocked at how many died. Right, so here we are on the commander screen again, and like, what? Okay, see, like, I'm not sure, like, there's no logs for these. So, like, how did they die? How did they die? Yeah, this is very strange. I wonder if, like, they just retreated. I mean, normally, like, yeah, here's a chieftain that retreated, right? Here's a Jarl that retreated. So, like, that's a different status. So here's a warrior sorceress who had her life drained. And then a Witch King. So, well, I'm going to take a quick look because I am very confused as to how they died. Like, I know some stuff jumped in the back, but it looked like mostly eagles to me, but clearly I missed something. So yeah, this is almost over. So, you know, apologies if any of you already know how this is going to turn out and is obvious to you, but it's not 100% obvious to me. Like I said, my money is on Sarmatia, but I am curious to see. Perhaps another Scrotty gets turned into a frog. That is painful. You know, that is a decent... Yeah, I think that was it right there. That just hit this guy, like Curse of the Frog Prince. It looks like, okay, armies of Niflheim are routed, right? So like now we just have this guy is berserking, right? So he cannot rout. And then this guy probably fell asleep, right? Because he's our guy with unequaled obesity. And so he's no longer berserk, and now he's trying to rout, but like he's never going to be able to escape, right? Because, you know, he's not killy enough to get through all of this chaff. And this just highlights why like attacking into a fort for a nation that can make a bunch of skeletons is a real hassle. Because like they didn't even necessarily like have to beat you. You know, they pose the question of like, well, can you kill like infinite skeletons fast enough, you know, to make it to my skeleton generation? Now, unfortunately, because the Scrotty can't escape, right now we've hit battle round I think 110, where the defender automatically routes as well, right? And this is just part of like Dominions can get into a lot of weird places, especially in the battles. And so if the battle takes long enough, eventually everyone just gets killed. And this is really bad for Sorrow, right? Because as these mages wake up, they are going to run off. And, you know, any mages that run off in a siege defense like this, they just die. Luckily, his god is a demi-lich, and he cannot move. So I do think Sarmatia is actually going to come away with this, although, oh no, Scrotty he re-berserked. He re-berserked, although he's right on the edge of sleep. So like he could absolutely, yeah, there he goes. Oh wait, hang on, but that was I think Phoenix Pyre. So he pops back up. If he gets under 100 fatigue, then he might survive, and then this Scrotty is still berserk. Okay, I think Niflheim is gonna come away with this. Like, yeah, there's just a few wolves that were like crippled or asleep. And like this one Scrotty manages to pull it out for Niflheim. That was a good effort by Sarmatia, definitely, and you know, not super expensive for Niflheim, right? And you know, this player is really good about that. You know, they lose one werewolf, they lose a golem. There's a lot of kit on those guys, right? So those are painful losses, but I think at this point in the game, totally acceptable, especially considering this was Sarmatia's capital, right? I mean, you saw how much I paid against Russ, right, just for a field battle. Like, this is way better. Still, though, I think a really good effort by Sarmatia, and if you'll indulge me here for a second, I am curious to see, because, yeah, he had a bunch of casters back here, so, like, what happened to him? Did the Great Eagles really just, like, kill that many of them? Was there, like, you know, maybe, like, a Wind of Death or something that I missed? You know, yeah, they're making skeletons, calling ancestors, you know, just doing your death stuff. He's got a bunch of these revenants here, which, you know, I think you need death 2, and then you can summon in a death mage. And like, yeah, these little guys are super divisive. Some people basically consider them as like research boosters, because they're a way you can take, I think they're like 8 or 9 death gems, right? And then you turn that into a mage who can research for you and can also like hold, you know, additional research boosters. Other people feel that like that is just a complete trap and waste of death gems, because I mean, they are just death 1 mages. Okay, so yeah, the Great Eagles kill a bunch of revenants. I mean, that's the other thing, right? These revenants are like, yeah, they're just like death 1, not a lot of hit points. I see both arguments, absolutely. I am undecided on that. I haven't really tried it either way. It looks like the Eagles are just eating mages. So this is a case where like some bodyguards, but you know, I mean, Sarmatia's down to it, but still, I mean, you know, their capital, you think to be able to summon in like something. So it looks like, yeah, most of these guys were just killed by Great Eagles. I don't really know why that didn't show up in the battle log. Maybe just yeah, okay. So like, you know, here's a Revenant, and like now it's showing stuff. Maybe I didn't click the Revenants before. Yeah, no, it was Great Eagles that got them. I don't know why that didn't show up before. Weird little bug. So yeah, I mean, people talk about how like Great Eagles are not really like great in combat, and they aren't. But you know, it does kind of highlight how like, you know, flyers, especially against unprotected mages, like in a siege situation, very useful, and like one of the ways that you can kind of get around like the skeleton production problem. So I think, you know, Niflheim went in with a plan, and you know, just, I mean, it did work out. it was rough, but it worked out for them. And then of course, Burden of Time, we had some unexpected events, found some earth gems, very nice. Found a few blood slaves. It's not bad, so that's good. We are sieging some fort. Oh, right, this is our lone bird on top of that palisade. But he cannot crack it. Looks like we actually have some starvation due to lack of supplies. This is our southern army. That's a bit sad. We do have some supply items, but, you know, it's a big army. And then one of our augurs dies from disease, and then our lich finally reforms. So I think it's 3 turns is the default for immortality. So unless it says otherwise, it's going to be 3 months or 3 turns. And I will catch you guys after the jump. All right. this is the situation and what we're doing about it. I have to say, a lot of the dread is gone now. In a lot of ways, this is exactly what we wanted to have happen. This army has been completely destroyed. So if we take a look at like what's actually still here in the province, weirdly, mostly the slingers survived. We have a little bit of infantry that survived, like a few mechanical men. We had some retreats, right? So, grab bag of stuff here. Some stuff retreated into the capital, but, it was pretty much eliminated. Losing the 20 augurs is 21 augurs, but a lot of augurs. That was definitely like the worst part of that combat. The Lar that we lost actually killed himself with his crossbow. Normally, just having your mages like shoot a crossbow, it keeps him pretty safe unless like you lose the battle completely. But of course, with Blood Vengeance, he dealt damage to a very angry bear and was killed by the Blood Vengeance. So that's how he lost the Lar. But like I said, we want to turn this into a war of attrition, and that's exactly what the plan is, even aside from, we'll talk about the death basket nonsense, which is complete bullshit, and definitely feel a little dirty, but not so dirty that we're not going to spend all those gems. I'm a simple man. I see a gem, I spend a gem. So we're just going to slam gladiators. The Equite, I think, have carried us about as far as they can. There's been a lot of issues like with this build. I knew it was too focused on the Equite, and, there were a lot of problems with the Bless. Probably didn't quite have enough strength, if I really wanted to focus on the Equite. And if we look at the battle report here, painful as it may be, and I've definitely watched this battle like a few other times, I think it's a good idea. If you want to understand what happened, you're going to have to watch these battles like a couple different times and, watch it from different perspectives. Like what did the Communion do? Like, how badly was it fatigued out in like the first 5 rounds? Anyway, watching the battle from a lot of different perspectives is useful, but just studying the, kills and losses screen can sometimes be useful, though of course it can be deceptive because sometimes you're getting like chaff kills. So it's just like, okay, the Augur's got 30 kills, but like was that 30 of his skin shifters or like 30 wolves? And so we don't really know, but realistically, like there's a good chance that they're going to be killing like roughly equal numbers of like skin shifters and garbage. We can see like we brought like almost 50 of our sacreds, basically 50 of our sacreds, and they only got 24 kills, which is significant, absolutely. But, we brought more gladiators, definitely, right? Because, we have this 50 here. They did 34 kills, so, like, already doing, trading better than our sacreds. Other than the fact that, of course, like, the gladiators, all disappear. But, I mean, when you're fighting against these skin shifters with Blood Vengeance, I mean, pretty much everything disappears, right? Like, whatever you use is going to die. So it doesn't really matter, right? Like we lost all of our sacreds as well. So it's like, okay, the gladiators disappear, but like, so what? Everything is going to be single use in this situation. And then we brought some other gladiators here, about half of what our sacreds that we brought numbers wise, but they still like got a decent amount of kills here. And if you look at like the gold investment, right? Like these guys are just 10 gold. I'm pretty sure the other type are also just 10 gold. Yeah, 10 gold, right? Versus, our sacreds here, 45 gold. And, we can get a lot fewer of them. Anyway, so, I think we're going to simplify, right? So we're just going to keep spamming out, like, we're spamming out a bunch of gladiators here, spamming out a bunch of gladiators here, and, like, we're just going to keep doing that. And then I think, minimal buffs, right? Like, scrape together enough augurs or elders or whoever, to throw on, like, Will of the Fates. We're going to bring in another Troll King, right? So, like, maybe Marble Warriors for, like, a protection buff. You do have to be careful because that gives you Frost Weakness. And, of course, he's trying to hit us with, like, Grip of Winter and things like that. So, but, like, some sort of, like, minimal suite of buffs, moving in. We're just not going to be able to build another army like we just lost. But then again, like, neither is he really. Like, I'm sure, he has some recruitment. We are going to face another pack of skin shifters, absolutely, because it's going to take us, at least 1 turn, 2 turns, probably like 3 or 4 realistically before we can, be sitting on top of his capital. And, a lot of ifs here, right? Like, I think realistically, we're probably going to fight another horrendous battle where, we pretty much trade almost everything. But again, we can just keep doing that. Now, I mean, this is in a void, right? Like, probably we both just get eaten by Niflheim. So I don't know if I can actually like finish this war of attrition, before outside forces kind of look at this apocalyptic conflict and decide like, okay, yeah, like Ermor doesn't really have anything left. Like, let's just jump him. So we'll see. But that's kind of the plan, in the north. And, while it wasn't the best result, like I said, this is going to be the plan. So I still have pretty high hopes. In terms of like this army can't really move forward. We do actually have a bunch of expensive casters here, most of whom are moving home, but we are splitting out some stuff. So in sort of a throwaway raid, like not completely throwaway, right? We're bringing in a small little, well, mostly augur communion. Had to throw a lizard shaman in there to make up the numbers, and they're just going to put flaming arrows on like our slingers and the remains of our infantry, and like, yeah, like, maybe like flaming arrows on like 34 slingers, and like our infantry's not terrible, and there's not a whole lot here, right? So he's got retreats, right? So he's scattered to like these 3 provinces, right? So these are, random grab bag of wizards, Rusian wizards that like maybe he can stitch together in a communion. Maybe they have gems. He can bring stuff out. What do we lose here? Oh yeah, this is our barbarians, right? So like he has some more sacreds here, right? Who maybe are unled. I'm not sure like why these sacreds are here, because they definitely didn't get blessed. Let's actually take a quick look. Okay, so he does have leadership there, right? So this chieftain can bring forward like what, four of his skin shifters, which is going to be nasty, absolutely. But they're not invincible, right? And even if we can kill off like the more skin shifters we can kill, the better. Like these wizards are going to be fairly vulnerable to slingshots, especially if they have the flaming arrows on them. Anyway, the high likelihood that this fails, but if he pulls out, we take the province, right? And we're also not really risking like anything that I really care about here. The Centurion, we don't want to lose mages, but like, these guys are going to die of old age soon anyway, burden of time. So use them or lose them. We're sending in a few gem reloads with them, because like, you never know, maybe they survive. So, we got that raid, and then we are splitting out. This is a little more expensive, so I'm hoping that these corpse constructs do not have undead leadership, right? In which case they'll just collapse. Good chance he can bring undead leadership from this throne province, so probably we will have to fight these corpse constructs, but outside chance that we won't, and they'll just collapse. A few Rusian wizards here, and one of his cap onlys, who are very dangerous, although this guy's probably not kitted. I should probably take a look and see, what kind of kit he has. But, in a lot of ways, we don't care what kind of kit he has, because we're going to send a decent amount of stuff at him. So this is much less throwaway, and, we don't want to lose this, right? So we have our infinite skeleton generators. They did survive. They both have, like, rabbit foot charms, right? So this force is going to be a lot more resistant to just getting blasted by arrows, right? That's the other thing, is that, like, decent chance this communion collapses due to arrow blasting. But, there's enough commanders in here. Like, we'll see. Worst case scenario, that's like fewer air elementals that we have to deal with, and we're gonna get blasted with arrows. We do actually have an augur communion here as well to summon in some fire elementals, so decent chance that this gets blasted as well. And like we're running this right at the ragged edge, which I said like, hey, don't do that. We're on the ragged edge a little bit. Like sometimes that's how you have to roll. So pretty unlikely that both of these augur communions get wiped out due to arrow fire, but sometimes you get unlucky. But even if that gets wiped out, that's fine. We're sending in our Troll King, and he's just carrying some extra fire gems just due to gem carrier issues, right? We were bringing out a ton of gems to support that army, and now we just like have too many gems. Most of the gems are headed home. And we don't have a gem carrier for this army. So this guy's our gem carrier for the fire gems. So he'll reload this communion, if it survives. And so we've given him, a decent amount of earth gems. We've set him on conservative gem usage, so he's just going to immediately blast out an earth elemental, which should hopefully keep those corpse constructs busy and, kill a few of them. And I don't think fatigue is really going to be a problem for him, because he's quite a high level earth caster. And then he's going to throw up marble warriors, hopefully on himself and like, these moose knights. But, if he gets like some of the vine ogres and the commanders, that's fine. Like a little bit of protection. That also costs us an earth gem. And then he's going to throw out some blade winds, which are really good against lightly armored targets, which of course those corpse constructs, no armor. And then he's just set to advance and cast spells, and like he can more or less do what he wants. He is after all a Troll King with some regenerating moose knights right next to him. They're not going to love the fire elemental, so maybe that's an argument not to make a fire elemental. In fact, yeah. All right, putting the vulnerable Augur Communion out in front. So this way, hopefully the Fire Elemental, go ahead, I don't know. We'll see. Again, just kind of like stitching all this madness together. We're also throwing the Priest in because, like, why not? There's some undead here, our Holy Three. Like, we don't have a stack of Sacreds to bless anymore. We probably never will again in the north here. So this guy is, like, useful as a Holy Three, as a high-level priest, and he can, like, Sermon of Courage and, like, Holy Word, so, he can nuke some stuff that gets close, like, eh. So anyway, we're sending that here, and then, of course, he may decide to raid farther south, which, like, fine, we don't have enough stuff to stop every possible movement, but, this way, hopefully, we'll retake this province. Speaking of retaking provinces, we're going to take our Lich, and he's going to bring, like, a few devils that we have in the capital. They're just going to immediately attack rear to interrupt, like, any kind of script. 5 devils is pretty nasty. Could kill, his thug outright. His thug is most likely going to go into stealth mode, which I'd actually missed because he's given him a Shade Mail. So this is a pretty useful item, an expensive item, definitely, but it's a way to give units stealth that don't normally have it. So this guy's probably going to disappear and annoy us elsewhere, and, this is going to be a waste of time, and not a waste of time, this is a very valuable province. So I also feel like there's he could choose to just hang out and patrol and, like, PD dump, right? That's not a crazy plan, like denying me all this gem income. But, he has the Shade Mail, so I think probably he's going to stealth out and go somewhere else. If he just chooses to raid into this province, we're going to throw a bunch of fire elementals at him, because, like, sure, we have fire gems. But anyway, so, we just got to grab bag of random stuff that's going to go attack. The devils are going to go in, and our Lich is just going to make skeletons. And I think he's on advance and cast. Yeah. So, and he's high enough death that, he can do drain life and stuff like that. So fair chance that we kill this thug if he hangs out. Fair chance that we kill him if he moves here. If he stealths out, we'll deal with him later. Moving our commander up to, grab these flagellants, who actually, are going to be great, right? We got them for free. They deal a lot of damage. They usually die, but in this case, we don't care. So they're actually kind of the perfect gift right now for this situation. Thank you very much, game. We are just throwing, like, a single lizard shaman here for a little bit of swarm raiding. If this guy gets jumped on, by a air elemental counter raiding group, he will die. But this is Caveman PD, which you have to spend a lot of gold for Caveman PD to be at all useful. So I'm expecting, like, 1 PD, 6 PD tops, and I think the double swarm ought to do it. So I think we'll be able to take the province, and then, like, this is, like, if he jumps on this with, like, air elementals and stuff, it's kind of like, okay, right, like, now we're taking the other approach. I guess, there's 2 approaches, right, to the raiding situation. You just overwhelm your opponent with, like, really cheap raids, right, where it's just like, yeah, okay, like, how many Cloud Trapezing guys, like, do you have? You really want to waste it on, like, 1 lizard shaman who's out of gems? And we'll see, like, maybe. But, I mean, we can keep throwing lizard shamans at the problem. We are running out of mages, like, absolutely. And then, of course, bringing a bunch of stuff into Agartha, right? And, like, we'll have a decent stack of mages here, right? Just from what we're moving in this turn. I am expecting him to move forward with this force and jump on top of this. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really doing any patrolling, so, like, maybe he just sends a raiding force to try to lock it down. He did split his army here, right? So it's like about half the skin shifters are here, moved in with the god. I'm thinking that was actually a magic phase attack from the god, and there's a pretty good chance that we get earthquaked here this turn, right? Because this army can absolutely get magic phased on. Like, he could even magic phase ahead of us if he wanted to. It's not necessary because this is a fairly obvious move. There's really not a whole lot we can do about that, right? Like, one of the things that I played, one of the ideas that I played with doing is to basically delay the communion a turn, which I think maybe, like, has some applications possibly. So, like, everyone just do Twist Fate first, right? Which just cancels the first, damage that they're going to take. And Twist Fate is faster than Earthquake, right? So even if you turn 1 Earthquakes, we put up Twist Fate, and then the Earthquake does nothing. But, he's no fool, right? So if we take a look at this battle, where he tried to cheese our glorious army, which absolutely is the right thing to do, there's, more than 1 earthquake, right? The problem, like, 1 earthquake, 2 earthquakes, 3 earthquakes. Yeah, three, I think just 3 earthquakes, just 3 earthquakes, right? So it's like, okay, sure, like, we could Twist Fate our way out of the first earthquake, but it's like, at some point we have to waste a turn putting up the communion. I guess we could just cast Twist Fate 3 turns in a row. Maybe that's the answer. I'll have to think on that. It would definitely be super annoying to change everybody's script. So, right now, like, we're just relying, right, on the fact that we have a ton of long dead horsemen. Well, okay, not a ton, but like 20 long dead horsemen that are just going to rush forward. They're pretty quick. So, like, we're going to get hit by the first earthquake, absolutely. And this is the downside. I've talked about communions, but if we just had like 1 or 2 high level mages to cast like some sort of, protective spell on everyone on the first turn, that's so huge. We kind of have that, right? So we're going to turn 1 mass protection, which is going to help a little bit. But, since we have like guys that are dying who are in robes anyway, mass protection, it's just not going to be enough. So that'll lessen the blow, but still ultimately kind of destroy the communion and significantly reduce the strength of this army. But he will probably lose his pretender, right, as a trade. So, and I mean, clearly he was willing to risk it before, so I don't really see why he wouldn't risk it again. On the other hand, maybe he'll decide that, like, yeah, so what? This guy's just going to, like, march around and take, like, 1 province a turn eventually. Some of them are, valuable provinces. And, like, yeah, that's true. That's a downside of this attack, absolutely. We should probably split some stuff off to take this fort, because that is the plan, right? We do need to start taking more provinces, right? I've been, doom stacking a little too much, but again, I'm looking to get those trades with his armies to take them off the board, for this, war of attrition. Of course, like, raiding is also a war of attrition, and we're absolutely losing that war of attrition currently. So we'll see. I might modify the script for this and try, like, 3 rounds of Twist Fate and like see if we can get out of these gosh darn caves. I mean, earthquake is still dangerous even outside of caves. So by no means out of the woods or out of the caves, even when we make it out of the caves. But, again, he doesn't have a ton of guys that can do the Earthquake Trap, more than I originally thought. I just thought it was the Pretender, but with enough boosters, he can absolutely pull it off with a few of his other casters. But those Thunder Priests, right, like, Earth is a random for them, right? These are the Thunder Priests randoms here. So only 25% of these guys are going to have Earth, and that's it. That's all the Earth that, his nation has access to, outside of foreign recruits, which he might have, but we haven't seen yet. And, of course, these guys are foreign recruit. We've talked about these guys, right? They can only be recruited in forests. We're not really seeing any recruitment of them out of forests. He's also been using them for cloud trapeze attacks, right? So it's like he only has so many of these guys as well. So it's like he lost one, right, with all the gear in that failed earthquake trap attempt. So he's only got so many shots, to do that, and he can only do it in so many places. And I don't think he can actually recruit, he can't recruit Thunder Priests out of this forest, which I kind of flubbed on, because you absolutely have to have a temple, because they're a priest, as well as a quite effective mage. And for whatever reason, it doesn't really appear that he's recruiting him. He could recruit him out of this forest, so we're going to leave this assassin in place. This one's going to head out. So anyway, Earthquake Trap, like, it's out there. It's looking for us. It may find us, but if it doesn't, then, we're going to take Helheim. We're probably going to split out some legionary infantry to try to take this fort, and then once we take Helheim, then we'll actually have a base to operate out of, and we're still gonna have to doomstack forward a little bit, but I think we're gonna start splitting a lot, like, once we make it down. That's the other thing. So this fort is empty, which he chose to build. Russ gets kind of worse than normal forts, so we can tell that he built that fort. Here's Satis, so we're gonna try to take a look, like, maybe there's a big force here, because this is empty. Right, this throne is completely empty, which is kind of shocking, and there's a good chance that, like, Niflheim is just like, okay, we're just gonna keep on eating. So possibly Russ has even less defense than I thought. Or I think more likely, right, it moved maybe here this turn, kind of in anticipation that, like, maybe I'm going to need reinforcements. Or, like, maybe it's already on Satis. Like, there's a decent chance that there's a big old stack headed our way right here in the north. So we do want to try to acquire that. We're going to Astral Window on top of his capital to see, like, maybe he gatewayed some stuff in. So we're still not completely sure, right? That I feel like there's at least, when we know about this force here, and that could be in motion as well. But, I've talked about how that one's not so scary. So there could be one additional Rusian force that we don't know about. But otherwise, like, he's kind of getting down to it, I think, in a lot of the same ways that we are. And I think even if he does have another force that was covering this throne, right, like, it's just going to slow down, I think, the same result. And will probably definitely result in both of us being eaten, because it'll take me too long, to wear it down. But we'll see. And then I guess, and then of course, so Agartha, right, that's the other big thing. Maybe he tries to chase this army, but I think he doesn't. I think he just lets it go, because he wanted Agartha. It's right here, right? I don't really have that much defending it, but we are, of course, slamming out more gladiators, and you might think like, okay, so what? We're slamming gladiators in TNN. Like, that's not really going to help us. But we are absolutely going to gateway, everything that we have right in TNN, which isn't that much stuff, but it's not no stuff. And we're going to have another round of gladiator recruitment here. And so anyway, that's all going to gateway in to Agartha. And so I think, like I said, Agartha, it's going to be a flip. It's going to be in a cave. We could get earthquaked there. So we'll have to do some thinking about that. But I absolutely think that, we can make Agartha a painful enough experience that it's going to wipe out, a good chunk, maybe all of his army up in the north. And again, right, we're just looking to get rid of those cap only sacreds. And then we can really start to push. And then of course, on to the bullshit. So yeah, death baskets. If I was Russ, I would be super tilted. We got such a huge influx of gems. It's pretty unfair. On the other hand, right, the power of friendship. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to hate on that for me, but I totally understand where players are coming from. Where they're where they don't like death baskets, and I think there's varying levels of death baskets. I totally reserve the right to send out death baskets, but it's scale of if you get a death basket for me, don't get too excited. I will have spent almost everything, right? And that kind of death basket, just it doesn't matter nearly as much. So I think is much less tilting. But we received I don't even know 400 500 gems, a ton of gems. We got what, let's take a look. Just 303 fire gems alone. We were pretty much tapped out on fire gems. We spent half of that immediately. I don't know, I've heard other people have problems spending gems. I have the reverse problem. It's never been a problem for me. So what are we spending all these mostly fire gems? Like I said, we're also bringing in another Earth King, right? Troll King, which I think we may have had enough gems to do. I think we were ballpark, but now we could do it twice. And then we're also bringing in a sea troll and his court. So we're going to get a Sea King with our water gems. We'll probably just get another Sea King next turn because I don't really actually have a lot of good outlets for water gems. Maybe, some light crafting. We're going to struggle to spend the air gems a bit. I probably should trade those, but may just try to use them. We definitely want some eagles and everything. But mostly flame spirits and fire snakes. Basically, anybody who can is going to summon in flame spirits or fire snakes. Flame spirits are fire 3 commanders. They're also ethereal. They don't have a ton of hit points, but they have more than old men. And so they're a lot more resistant to earthquake, the arrows, whatever, right? So we're going to summon in some better fire commanders. They are pretty narrow. They're just fire 3. That's what they do. Fire. They're a flame spirit, but hey, we're in the fire business, so that's cool. And he doesn't love fire elementals, right? Fire elementals is a good way to trade with his sacreds. So, if we just have a bunch of flame spirits blasting out a bunch of fire elementals, is it a genius strategy? No, not really, but it'll work. And then, of course, fire snakes. They're not great, but they're tanky enough that they'll survive his blood vengeance decently well. Also, poison is a nice angle, right? Because poison damage is a little weird where it doesn't actually count as the attacker dealing damage, right? So if you actually get a kill through poison, it doesn't get credited to anyone. And so that means that blood vengeance does not trigger for poison damage, right? And so fire snakes, in addition to doing a bunch of fire stuff, are indeed snakes, and they have a fairly strong venom. And he doesn't really have a ton of poison resistance. He can cast it on his guys and has been doing a decent job of that, and I expect that'll continue, but just another source of damage. And we saw okay, we had 11 fire snakes, they killed 7 guys. That's not a great ratio, but it's no worse than a lot of our other stuff. So anyway, bunch of fire snakes, that is what we are using this death basket for, fire snakes and flame spirits. And of course, we're doing a decent amount of casting. We're also going to bring in Alar here in Agartha. So even if he moves in immediately and one turn cracks, we'll still be able to gateway in. We're going to have this round of summoning, and we're going to get in one more round of summoning, and that is the worst case scenario. So I absolutely think we can stuff Agartha with enough stuff to make it really painful. I also think that he probably won't one turn crack it, which means we get another round of summoning in. So there's a fair chance that he doesn't actually jump on it immediately. I don't know. We'll see. And then, full mage recruitment everywhere. The advantage of losing this, giant stack is that at least this turn, we actually have a decent amount of money. But of course, the money continues to tank as, Burden of Time still going. And honestly, actually, Illwinter here really starting to become a problem with the unrest. So I actually think that, look at this. There's just unrest like everywhere. This is another reason that like we really kind of want, we only have a little bit of order, which, helps reduce unrest, right? A little bit of unrest reduction. But you can see like places where we have high candle strength, right? Like relatively low unrest, also like fairly good heat, even here in fall. Places, that are colder, actually no unrest here, fairly high candle strength. Some unrest here, but anyway, unrest of course cuts into your gold, so it's difficult to say the exact reason that we're getting screwed out of all of our money. Is it because the world is dying? Is it because the ice giants are turning it into an ice ball and taking over? Like, I don't know, jury's out. Either way, we are moving to the no money phase of the game, and I think that covers our movements. Apologies if that was a bit long-winded. The world at large, probably the biggest thing, right, is that we see that this war between Fomorian and Ulm is like absolutely on, which is good news because that's going to keep Ulm busy. I just think that like the size of the nations involved, this is a very uphill struggle for early age Ulm, but the player is very good. So we'll see. Like, we're trying to get our scout out here, check out this, this has been cracked. So, hopefully we'll get to see a storm here and we won't get patrolled out. But yeah, we kind of actually have enough information here. We don't need to worry too much about this just yet. And then, of course, like the Niflheim Juggernaut rolls on. We're going to try to get our scout on top of this fort, to see what's going on there. And then Machaca has been cracked by this giant Xibalban force, and Xibalba is like another wild card. So I've been talking about how Niflheim's probably going to eat me and Russ, but maybe he ends up fighting with Xibalba. So we'll see. Oh, and then not hugely important, but of note, Therados, our first direct contact with Therados. So it looks like he is trying to eat Ubar, which I think he probably will be able to do. I don't think Ubar is very big. I think they've staled a few times at this point. There's a decent chance that he's been raided down a lot on the coast. Don't have any diplomatic relations, with this player yet. This player and I have played before together, and we didn't enjoy it. So even outside of the fact that, he's killing off the entire world, and we kind of need that golden population, I'm not really expecting this to be like a friendly relationship. I'm not going to reach out for a non-aggression pact. There's a chance that like we get raided, right? You can see that like there's just a single bird like sitting on this fort. So like maybe he decides like, hey, I could just have this fort. I don't really know what the situation is here, but there is a chance that we're going to start to tangle with Therados in the not too distant future. I think that covers turn 67.